Hi, and welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. My name is E.V. LeBron. You're probably wondering why I'm still here in my Navy camis that I wore in Iraq. I wanted to pay homage to the 13 soldiers that died in Afghanistan needlessly, those Marines and the corpsmen. Um, I had no better way or no honor to give to them more than throwing a uniform that I wore on and to show them some kind of respect for the loss and their family. Um, I ask that you pray for their families. This is the toughest time ever in their life, having to bury the ones that they love. So please keep their families in your prayer. Anyway, today I have Mr. Kevingriffin. He is running for Texas 10 House District. Mr. Griffin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. And thank you for having me on the show.
Appreciate it. So I wanted you to go ahead and tell people about yourself. For those who may not know you, and there's a lot of new people in the area, like I've told every other candidate. So kind of tell people about you.
You bet. Well, I appreciate that. I'm a Christian. I'm a father, a husband, a rancher, and a small businessman. I grew up in Ellis County. I'm fifth generation Midlothian. We've grown up here. I went to kindergarten through high school. Married my high school sweetheart. We had four beautiful children that we grow and raise and homeschool here in Ellis County. I have served our community for a little over 2 decades as a volunteer fireman and as a deputy sheriff for Ellis County. I have a bachelor's degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I currently base most of our businesses right here out of Ellis County. So that's a really quick overview of who Kevingriffin is.
Well, thank you for that. So let's go into fundamentals. I've asked every candidate about fundamentals because I believe that, you could say you have these positions, but to have these positions, you have to have a foundation. So fundamental issues.
Okay.
What is the role of the government in the lives of the people of Ellis County?
So our government really should be a minimal role. It should provide the necessary services and the backbone infrastructure for us to be able to function as a society. And so outside of that, it should not be inside of our personal business.
Okay. Now, tell me about your thoughts on the First Amendment, what it means to you.
Yeah, freedom of speech is absolutely one of the founding reasons we have America. It's vitally important that we have that freedom and that we're not censored or censorship, either social media or otherwise. We should be able to have our voice and not be concerned for any reason, including religious persecution, which is why we got that in the first place. So I feel very strongly about preserving that and fighting for those rights.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Now, of course, something that's very important to a lot of Texans is the right to keep and bear arms. Can you tell me your thoughts on the Second Amendment?
Absolutely. It's very simple. Nothing should be treaded on that. Nothing should infringe it. It's very clearly stated. As a law enforcement officer, I firmly believe in the Second Amendment, and no, shouldn't be regulated. It's there.
Good. Okay, let's go into the issues of Texas. So right now, one of the issues that are that are affecting Texas is obviously COVID has come back, and there are a lot of people getting sick. Um, but there's some hot button issues that go with that. One of them is vaccine mandates or vaccine passports, or the other one is masking. Obviously, um, will you support in any way any kind of mandatory uh, vaccination, any vaccine passports, or any masking?
No, no, masks should not be mandated. Neither should be vaccines. I believe that is our personal responsibility to govern ourselves, and that we should have that inalienable right to choose if we get a vaccine or if we get a mask or wear a mask. We shouldn't have any government shutdowns over that. We should use a common sense approach. If you're sick, stay home. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. It should be up to us to be able to govern ourselves, and we shouldn't be forced by a government to do any of those things.
Recently, the state Democrats in the House took off because of the voting law that I believe just passed today. That House, the Texas House, but they called it. They said it was racist. They said all kinds of things, that it was a voting restrictions. What are your thoughts on the voting bill?
Voting integrity, having a confirmed vote is part of our values, is vital to our society. We need to understand that we have registered Texas voters voting, and so I support that 100%. We should be able to verify our vote.
Okay. And besides COVID and this voting thing, you got redistricting coming. Do you want to share some thoughts on what you think about redistricting and how that should go down?
Sure, we do that every 10 years. This is not a new process. This is something that we've done for a long time. I think it's important that we hold strong and we do a good job. I know there's two electoral votes or positions that are going to be coming available, and I believe that Ellis County needs to be positioned where we hold our district, and we encourage those other districts to be somewhere else. But locally to DFW, I think should be one of those.
Have you been involved with local politics just now? You're running as a Republican, I believe. I could be
Uh,
wrong.
no, that's
Have
correct.
you been involved with local GOP politics, or that's
No,
first?
I'm a rancher and a business guy. That's one of
Hmm.
the differential things about why I'm running. I'm running for a common sense approach and a business approach to government. I have not been active in the GOP locally. I've served our community in other ways, like I was saying before. I served for 2 decades, in both on the fire and on the law enforcement side, and so I just felt like that was a way that I could give back to our community in a stronger, better way.
Well, thank you for serving in that capacity. I always thank all people who serve in any way, whether it be in,
Well,
whether whatever uniform it may be,
that's
law
right. I
enforcement.
appreciate that, and I thank
So
you for your service. Your service means a lot, and I know you're going through some hard times today.
thank you, man. I feel that. Um, so the another issue that I wanted to talk about with the state is schools. Obviously, schools are, you know, beyond the politics of it. Schools are suffering because of COVID and the delay, and some of the things that are affecting our students. Our scores are down. Um, Really, the schools can use some help. What are some of the things that you'd like to propose if you were elected to help the schools in Ellis County?
Again, that goes back to a common sense approach. We need to step back and look and see what are the tools and resources we need to help get through these problem things like COVID. One of the fundamental things that we need to do is have parents back in our school system and have a voice. I think it's vitally important that we get to a better core um, teachings in mathematics, arithmetic. Reading, history. Those things are all important, but we shouldn't be pushing anything like CRT or any of those other more radical theories that are being pushed today in public schools. And so, some of the biggest things is just putting core values back in there and teaching on those values.
What are your thoughts on um, the state versus the local and the role of the state in the local schools or the local governments.
Locally, we ought to be able to make those decisions. That should be something that we have a local presence on, and then a supporting role from the state government standpoint. So, I believe it should be locally first. Our current school boards and such, and our local elections should be able to govern those things, and then it should be supported by our state.
Another issue that's affecting the state right now is illegal immigration. And while the purview of immigration belongs solely to the federal government, the law allows the state government to do as much as the federal government. They can't exceed that. What are your thoughts on what's currently going on our border,
Sure.
with Mexico, and what were some of the things that you would propose?
You bet. I know this better than most. I actually owned and operate ranches on the border, physically on the border. I actually had six county representatives come in from six different counties along the border at the end of June to talk about what are the real issues, what do you guys need resource wise to help with the border crisis. A lot of those things are real simple. We have approximately just over 1,900 miles on the southern border. A little over 1,200 of those miles are within the state of Texas. The state of Texas itself has about $1.2 billion allocated for that budget to maintain and service the southern border. The government has about 24.9 billion as of June is the federal funds. The Texas gets out of those federal funds roughly 800 million. So we have 63% of the border, roughly, and we get 16% of the federal budget to help secure that border. So one thing that we need to do is a better job fighting for those federal dollars from the state level, and give our people the infrastructure needs that we have. We need infrastructure. We need bricks and mortar. We don't have places to house people. We're being overrun from that standpoint. We need communication. There's agencies that can't talk to each other. Brewster County can't talk directly with Presidio County. They're neighboring counties that are, probably at least double the size of Ellis County. Ellis County is 952 square miles. And we have counties that have 4 or 5 different agents trying to cover such large, vast pieces of our border. It just becomes very difficult and very cumbersome. And those are things that we can do right here in Texas right now to help support these people. And that's all the way up and down the border. They have a procedural issue. They don't have processes in place today that can help them process people. It takes one agent or one officer almost 4.5 hours to process one or multiple people that they come in contact with. From a humanitarian standpoint, they're horrible conditions. People are coming across. They don't have the water that they need. They're getting additional water out of water troughs. They're coming out of the desert, just all sorts of beat up. And we can have places and come in to help control where they come by building a wall, by building places that are funneled and building on procedurals that are more federal than state. But we need to have reform in that immigration process to help put those people and give them options versus just coming across openly. The other thing that we can do right now is highly regulate coyotes. They need to have harsher punishments. If we had harsher punishments and we made the laws that made it unattractive for them to be in human trafficking or sex trafficking, then I think we would see a decrease in what is coming through the Texas border. But that's a huge issue. Human trafficking, sex trafficking is coming through our southern border, and Dallas is in the top 5 cities across the nation in those things, and it's here in 12 to 24 hours. And so it's something that we need to take serious, that we need to know that it's going to be in our backyard as Ellis County constituents within hours. So I take the southern border and that very, very serious because I know it so well.
It sounds like you have a good grasp on that. It is a big issue affecting Texas, but you did mention budget. So before I go into budget, I kind of wanted to cover something that's just as important, and it does pertain to budget too, is taxes. So property taxes are taxing people out of their homes. because of the valuations and basically from what I've learned talking to local officials and doing this show is that there's very tight restrictions on the leeways that the cities and counties can do what they can do and what they can't do. Um, but there's a lot of state mandate on that. And the only way to fix the property tax issue in Texas is through the legislator. What are some of the things that you'd like to propose to help fix the property tax problem?
You bet. I mean, nobody understands that better than I do. I'm a landowner. My property tax has gone up 8% 2 years running. I'm absolutely tired of it. It's ridiculous. It needs to be reformed, if not abolished completely. There are other tax places that are spread that tax burden from landowners and property owners, homeowners, and spreads that out more evenly across the state of Texas. We need to go to a sales tax, is what I would am leaning towards, something that's more fair for everybody that's in the state of Texas or visits the state of Texas. It'll give us relief to our directly to District 10, and then it'll allow a bigger base for a larger tax. And so we can lower taxes and raise our revenue in that. I feel substantially by opening up and looking at common sense what works in the state of Texas for taxes, and I would be in favor of doing those things and working towards relief for both property tax and other personal taxes.
Excellent. Now, is there something that you've seen in the budget that, as a Texas representative, you'd like to address?
So one of the fundamental things I do in our business is I assess. The first thing to really streamline or make something more efficient and save dollars is take a step back and look at overall, do we have wasteful spending? I'm not talking about cutting programs. I'm talking about cutting fat out of that budget. Something that we can do right now. Uh, there's government spending that's absolutely wasted, and that's something that we need to have our hands on and do a better job with our overwatch. We need to go through those programs and see where those dollars make sense and where those dollars can be spent more wisely. And that's something I want to do on day one is be a part of looking over those things. I have to do this every day in business. I have several small businesses. I have medium-sized businesses. Something that we do daily is understand our processes. How we got through COVID. COVID was one of the hardest things for any small business or medium-sized business to go through. We had to get efficient. We had to get ingenuitive to be able to run these things and run them more efficiently. And so stepping back and looking at our costs, looking at what can we cut was a vital part of that. And so that's something that we would do and take serious on day one.
Businesses did have to adjust quite a bit during COVID, so I can understand, what you're saying definitely. So I wanted to address another issue um, that is important, and that would be criminal justice reform. Um, the days of locking people up and throwing away the keys are kind of gone. Um, but there are different ways to deal with the criminal justice system, and you have one side wanting to defund the police, and you have another who wants to strengthen. So I wanted your thoughts on criminal justice reform, defunding the police, etc.
You know, we can't do that. We cannot defund the police. Police and fire, they play such a vital role in our society for ensuring our safeties, making for sure that we have a stability system in place. Uh, we need to fund those things and educate those things more fully. If anything, we need to give more resources and tools to those guys to be able to make better decisions, better judgment calls in the future. And so I support police 100%, and we need to do a better job at supporting them from a state level.
Excellent. It's something that like recidivism and those kind of things on the connections for reentry for some of the inmates that have done their time and those kind of things are are definitely something that Texas could do better. Um,
Absolutely.
it's just something. But let's talk about marijuana. And I've asked every candidate this because there's been a lot of vets that came back and they were thrown every kind of pill that can imagine. And you know, while there's still studies about the efficacy of marijuana on PTSD and on pain, anecdotally, it is something that has become popular. Do you support the legalization of marijuana in any form?
I do. That's a tricky question somewhat because we have federal regulations to get it, and we have states that doing are passing laws to make those legal in those states. And so, fundamentally, from a federal level, we need to do a good job and look at marijuana for what it is, which is a viable tool for a lot of people. It's been proven for children with epilepsy, for PTSD people. I mean, there's studies out there and doctors that are are starting to do their research and really publish and push the benefits of CBD and what it can do for not just combat veterans or PTSD guys, but for children and for our older populations. And so I support marijuana. I also support looking into how we can change and have recreational marijuana, and that could be an additional tax source. I mean, it does a few things. It it puts less criminals are going to be apt to be in that business. It gives us the ability to regulate that business efficiently, and it gives us additional tax dollars. So I would absolutely support medical marijuana right now, 100%, and then I would be open to those discussions and push for good regulatory options for outside use, outside of medical marijuana.
Excellent. Now, another topic is veterans. Veterans, the state of Texas is actually pretty good to veterans. I gotta say, there's a lot of cool benefits. But is there something that you see that you would support, um, that you would support that helps veterans? Something that you'd like to see?
You bet. I'd really like to see a better job of getting veterans back to work. So many veterans go through the VA and are suffering from PTSD, and there's really no programs available. There's a few in San Antonio that really do a good job of putting veterans back to work and giving them the resources and stability to be able to do that. And I think that's something that we should really, we owe that to our veterans. We shouldn't abandon our veterans. They've done and gone and fought and been the worst of the worst in the most evil places around the world. And that's something that I truly believe that we need to do a better job of. And I think the state of Texas should be a leading state in programs that support our veterans after they've come home. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart. We do two programs. We do a human trafficking program here at the ranch, and we also participate with Wounded Warrior projects. And I do believe that we need to be able to do a better job of taking care of our veterans after they've come home.
We know that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Outside of just medically in the VA.
We have you mentioned it several times, but we are the major corridor for sex trafficking. Can you tell me what kind of law you would propose if you went to Austin to alleviate or help combat sex trafficking?
Sure. Human trafficking is horrible. Sex trafficking, and the problem is it's our children that are being taken advantage of. And those laws need to be strengthened for the people that are trafficking these children and these humans. It's just something that if they're illegal immigrants doing it, they don't need to get a slap on the hand and then be released. They need to have serious repercussions for their actions. They need consequences. And the state of Texas, we need to stand up and do that and fight for those children.
When or if you were elected, what would be the first thing when you went down in Austin, that first thing you think you would want to address? First issue.
We need to secure our border. Our border takes care of several issues. When we secure that, it will make an impact on human trafficking and sex trafficking. And so that is going to be a top priority. Second to that are going to be taxes, and then so on and so forth with other topics that we've discussed tonight.
Can people depend on you to do what's right for the district, even if it's not right for the party?
Absolutely. That's one thing that I've always done. I've always been able to stand up and do the right thing. That's why I'm running today. I've got 4 children that live in this district that are going to have to take the torch and be a part of our society in Texas going forward. And I want them to be happy to do that and encouraged to do that. Know that there's still people that have faith, family, and freedoms, and take our liberties serious, and we'll defend those when it's not the popular decision. And I'll absolutely stand up and fight for those things I know are right um, down in Austin.
What are your stands on abortion?
I'm pro-life 100%. I think
Okay.
the unborn is the most sacred among us. They're most the ones that can't be defended, and so I'm 100% pro-life.
Texas did a heartbeat bill. I believe it's caught up in the courts or getting ready to caught up in the courts. Is that something you support?
I support a hundred. Let me back up. Life starts at conception, and I won't stop until there's a bill that supports not murdering our young people. And so I believe that there's no reason that we need to have abortions, um, and I think they need to be abolished.
Okay. Well, here comes the part where you get to talk to the people of Ellis County. You, I want you to go ahead and tell them why to pick Mr. Kevin Griffin to represent them in the state house.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. Um, I'm a business guy with a common sense approach to everything. I've had to ranch and be ingenuitive with our ranching operation. The cattle industry is a very difficult business to maintain and to be profitable. I'm totally vertically integrated inside that business. I have my own cow calf business I've started. I have a meat company that we sell state and nationally and internationally, and I have a processing center that is highly regulated inside the USDA. So I understand better than most how to start, how to build, how to grow, and how to maintain a business. I can do that in Austin. I can grow jobs. I currently we export to 17 different countries. I have to interact with a lot of the Secretary of Ags inside of those countries. I know how to make for sure that we have good deals structured for Texans and feed that back into our district. I feel like I'm the candidate that has an equal balance between law enforcement and first responder experience and business from an executive level, and I can be highly effective and beneficial to us in Austin day one. And so, for those reasons, I feel like I have a better understanding globally of our economy and how it works. So I feel like I'm really the best candidate from a leadership perspective. That's one thing that nobody has talked about to date. Experience doesn't translate to leadership. All of our companies are self-sufficient. I could be hit by a Mack truck tomorrow, and every one of those entities is going to move on and be as profitable today as they were yesterday. And so, true leadership leads, empowers their people. I've got guys that have worked for me, with me, for 13 years. I have all the same people that on a management level that started with me at Tejas Premium Meats, which is my meat company. And these guys are phenomenal. Couldn't do it without them, and I empower them. And the leadership role in Austin is what's needed today. We need a guy that can go in there from a business perspective, from a common sense place, that's not a politician, and lead our district to a better outcome. And that's what I'm prepared, ready to do.
Well, there you have it, folks. I hope that you have found this interview informative. Mr. Griffin, I appreciate you coming on. I know it was kind of short notice, and I really do appreciate you. I'm going to ask you to stand by while I close out the show, and I'll come to you offline.
Good deal. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on the show, and hopefully Ellis County benefits.
Excellent. Hey guys, make sure that you go ahead and vote on Tuesday for the candidates that are running, whichever be your preferred one. Get out there and vote. It's very important. Um, the right to vote and our freedoms, are acutely. You should be acutely aware because there's 13 service members that just passed on for our freedoms. Um, and I wanted to reach out real quick to vets. um, I'm feeling what you're feeling. I'm hurting how you're hurting. If you need to talk, reach out. I'm here to listen. I'm feeling you, and I'm here for you. Please, reach out if you're struggling, because we're all struggling, and I'm always here to listen. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.